Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Godzilla Store exclusive Bandai movie monster series Godzilla 1964. Now, this version of Godzilla appears in the 1964 film Mothra vs. Godzilla, not to be confused with the 1992 film Godzilla vs. Mothra. But going back to Mothra vs. Godzilla for a second, I actually really like that movie. It is definitely one of my favorite Showa-era Godzilla movies. I think it's great. I think the commentary on capitalism is very good. The ideology of, for all the bad people in the world, it doesn't mean that everyone has to suffer, including the good. That's something that they bring up in the movie. And just a lot of, just really strong, storytelling elements that I think are great. The special effects, well dated, I think are great. Like Godzilla himself, I think is, pretty badass in this movie. I mean, he usually is, not to quote James Rolfe, but still, Godzilla usually is badass, but, Godzilla here is, flat out unstoppable until, the end. But still, regardless, Mothra vs. Godzilla is a great movie, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. And a little bit more history with this design, or this suit specifically. This suit was actually used to create Gomez for Ultra Q. So there's a little bit of connection between Godzilla and the Ultra series, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They're two of the bigger tokusatsu franchises. So it does make sense that there'd be some sort of connection, but still, it is really cool to know that they are related in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, and apart from the Heisei design, I feel like this design is also considered one of the more iconic designs for Godzilla, and it is really cool to see this design in the movie monster series line. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say, so let's just get right into this. Like usual in these movie monster series reviews, we're going to take a quick look at the tag first. So for the front here, we have a nice picture of Godzilla from Mothra vs. Godzilla. At the bottom here, we have Godzilla 1964, both in Japanese and in English. We have the Godzilla 2024 little emblem here, as well as some more information here. I can't read that, I'm sorry. I can't read Japanese, I'm sorry. But anyway, the back here, we actually have a nice silhouette of Godzilla's shoulder here with a little bit of one of his dorsal plates sticking out, and you can see his arm here, which is different. Usually, the silhouettes here, the dorsal plates are, another feature, but here it's, Godzilla's shoulder, so it is cool. Kind of sort of breaking up the formula. I do like that, but regardless, here we have Mothra vs. Godzilla, movie monster series, both in English and in Japanese. I'm assuming this says Godzilla Store. We have the Bandai logo here. Toho, made in China, Bandai Namco, and some information here. And there's a 3 there. And on the inside, we just have a bunch of legal information as well as a silhouette of Godzilla here. So, yeah, that does it for the tag. Now, going back to Godzilla himself, to start, we'll take a look at the paint. And the painting on this figure, for the most part, I think looks very good. So, let's take a closer look. So, right off the bat, the entirety of this figure is casted in this charcoal grayish coloration, which I think looks really good. I think it captures Godzilla's likeness very well. Though for some reason, there's a little bit of excess glue here, which is, a little unfortunate, but not the end of the world at all. It's very, very small, so I can live with that. So, yeah. The toenails and the fingernails here are painted yellow. And the chest here, we have a nice bit of this brown airbrushing here, which I think looks nice. It adds a bit of color variety to this figure, which I think is cool. For the dorsal plates, the outsides here, the edges are painted a nice white coloration. And once you get to the center, it slowly starts to, turn into Godzilla's skin tone, which, is accurate and it looks good here. So, yeah, the dorsal plates here look great. These ones, anyway. Unfortunately, for the outer dorsal plates, they did not paint the insides of them, which is very unfortunate. I know this is a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure, but this is also a Godzilla Store exclusive Movie Monster Series figure. So, at least for the Godzilla Store exclusive figures, I feel like the painting should be touched up a little more. The past few, Godzilla Movie Monster Series figures we've gotten, the insides of the outer dorsal plates were painted, and, they looked good. But then with this figure, they just didn't do that, and it's very, very unfortunate. It is minor, I know, and you're not really going to see it at most angles, but it's not minor enough for me to ignore, so yeah. And this white coloration stops right here. And normally I'd complain about the lack of painting on the tail, but honestly, I actually don't hate this. I feel like if the white continued, I feel like it'd look a little weird, so I actually do like how the white kind of stops here and the rest of the tail looks as is, so yeah, this looks good. Now going to the head, we can see that the eyebrows here are painted the same color as the chest here. Godzilla's eyes are painted white with black pupils. The teeth on this figure are painted a nice yellowish whitish coloration, and the inside of the mouth is a very, very like brownish reddish coloration, which I think looks nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. I wish they painted the entirety of the outer dorsal plates, but besides that, I think the painting here is pretty much perfect. So, painting on this figure, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the articulation. And the articulation on this figure, I mean, this is a movie monster series figure, so there's not a whole lot here. We have some movements in the head, some movements in the arms. I don't recommend moving the arms 360 because they do kind of rub against like the thighs here. And I kind of had to like stretch out the arms. So again, I don't recommend doing that. But still, you can do that if you so please. The legs can kick forwards about that much. Again, they can go 360, but like the scales on the inner thigh here rub against the tail, so I do not recommend doing that. But they can move backwards about that much and forwards about that much. Nothing at the tail here. And yeah. That's pretty much it for the articulation. Again, I don't even know what else to say at this point. It's a movie monster series figure. There's not going to be a whole lot here, so yeah, it is what it is. The articulation, it's on par with other movie monster series figures, so I'll give the articulation a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the sculpt. And the sculpting on this figure, for the most part, I think looks fantastic. I think everything here looks great. And I think the sculpting here captures Godzilla's likeness perfectly. Like, overall, the sculpting here, for the most part, is almost perfect. The keyword there being almost, because there is one very minor thing that does kind of rub me the wrong way, which is very unfortunate. Like, it's very minor, but it's not minor enough for me to ignore. And that's the neck joint. Because, as you can see, the head doesn't line up properly with the body. So we just have this really noticeable, just this weird space here between the head and the body. And I'm sorry, to me, it just looks very weird. Like, in the distance, you can't really tell, You can see the seam here, but, in the distance, you can't really see it. But, when you actually, hold this figure up close, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm really not a big fan of how that looks. Again, I know, it's so minor, but, I really wish they just, went ahead and fixed that. But I digress. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the sculpting. Again, besides that little bit with the neck, I think the sculpting here is still absolutely amazing. So, the sculpting on this figure still definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the detailing. And the detailing on this figure, I think, looks very good. So, let's take a closer look. So, right off the bat, the head, I think, is detailed very nicely. All of the detailing on the snout here, all of the bumps and, little creases and whatnot, I think are detailed very nicely. And even, the neck here, all of the creases and whatnot here are detailed very nicely. Really gives off that, guy in a suit feel, which, again, looks very good. But once we get to, the side of the neck here, again, we get that traditional, Showa era, Godzilla scaling here, which looks really good. The defining here looks great. Everything looks very, very intricate. It looks very good. On the arms here, again, just a lot of really nice detailing here. Just, the folds in the, arms here, again, just looks very good here. Again, gets off that guy in a suit feel. And the detailing for the front of the body, like on the chest here, again, it's just detailed very nicely. All the scaling here looks nice. Going to the legs, again, just a lot of really nice scaling here. Everything here is just very nicely defined here. And even the feet, like all the little ridges and whatnot, look very good. The side of the tail here, again, just a lot of really nice scaling here throughout. And all the creases and everything here look very good as well. The underside of the tail, again, all like the wrinkles and whatnot, is also detailed very nicely. And lastly, the dorsal plates here have a very good amount of detailing on them as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the detailing here. The detailing on this figure, again, looks very good. So the detailing here, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll do some size comparisons. To start, here we have the only other figure I have of the 1964 design. Here's the NECA Godzilla 1964. Here is another Godzilla Store exclusive figure. This is the Godzilla Store exclusive movie monster series Godzilla 1975. Here we have the Godzilla movie monster series Godzilla 1984. Again, another Godzilla Store exclusive. And of course, here we have some hand sanitizer. And here we have Dr. Billy Grant. So at the end of the day, should you get this figure? There are a couple minor things I don't like. I wish they painted the dorsal plates, the outer dorsal plates all the way through. And I wish they sort of fixed how the neck joint looks. But besides that, I do actually really like this figure, and I definitely recommend that you pick this one up. For the most part, I think the painting looks good, the sculpting, the detailing, everything about this figure I think looks great. Not a lot of articulation, but, this is a Bandai vinyl. That's nothing that's really new for this line. I think it does a great job capturing the likeness of Godzilla from Mothra vs. Godzilla, and overall, I do recommend you get this guy. So, as the title of this video suggests, and what I've been saying throughout, this figure is actually a Godzilla Store exclusive, so you can't really get this guy from Hobby Link Japan or any other proxy shop that sells movie monster series figures. You are going to have to get this guy through the Godzilla Store. Now, you do have two options here. You can wait for this guy to be available for pre-order with the American Godzilla Store, but that'll take a while. Or you can get this guy through the Japanese Godzilla Store using Bai. If you do get this guy through the Japanese Godzilla Store, then you are going to have to pay extra for shipping. But if you do end up waiting and, wait for this guy to become available at the American Godzilla Store, then you don't have to, import this guy or anything like that. Like, it'll be cheaper, but you have to wait longer. So if you want the figure sooner rather than later, then go with Japan, go with the Japanese Godzilla Store. But if you don't mind waiting and don't want to pay extra for shipping, then wait for this guy to become available at the American Godzilla Store. So, yeah, regardless, I do recommend that you pick this figure up, and yeah, I do like it. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.